you cyberpunks and retro nerds out there. It's your host, Tommy the Hammer. Welcome back to another edition of Neon Trash. Today we're going to be busting out the old VHS vault again for a movie from the early 90s called The Runestone. This movie stars Alexander Godunov, and some of you guys might recognize him as one of the villains from the original late 80s action classic Die Hard. He's also the main villain in Waxworks Part 2, and I've always thought he was kind of a cool character actor. You would see him here or there in movies late at night, you know, the USA Up All Night type variety. And, you know, I'm excited to check this flick out because back in the day, I would always see it on the old video store shelf, but would kind of pass it up. The cover really doesn't, leap out at you, especially if you're a teenager looking for a lot of blood and guts like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Friday the 13th. But you know me, I love revisiting old school classics and I love checking out cult movie trash. So you guys get that trailer, take a look-see at that, and we'll be right back, motherfuckers.
Live presents a spectacular thriller with an all-star cast.
You're not afraid?
Yeah, I'm afraid.
Alexander Godunov of Die Hard and Witness. Peter Riegert of Crossing Delancey. And Joan Severance of Bird on a Wire. The Runestone.
This is really something, isn't it?
It's just my reason for living.
Do you have any idea of what you have found?
I think I do.
It promises everything.
Don't listen to anything it tells you.
Just look at you. All excited about some caveman carvings.
Some lettering variation I've never come across.
But once it has awakened, there's no turning back.
Whatever it was that killed all those people, it wasn't a maniac. It wasn't a serial killer. It wasn't human.
Centuries ago, it took a god to imprison it.
The Norsemen sailed as far from their land as they could because they had something they wanted to get rid of.
We just scraped 2 men off the tiles out there. My men are playing mix and match with body parts.
Today, it will take a miracle to destroy it.
You tell me exactly what you think we're up against.
If you listen to me, I may be able to help you.
Alexander Godunov, Joan Severance, Peter Riegert, The Runestone.
Okay guys, I just got done wrapping up The Runestone. Before I rip this movie apart, and believe me guys, I plan on it, I do want to discuss a little bit about the positives this movie has going for it. First and foremost, I feel like the production value for this movie is actually not so bad. And, this is released by Live Home Video. Anyone that perused video stores back in the 1980s and the 90s will recognize that logo. So when I saw that, I kind of figured, is this going to be kind of a trashy, low-budget affair? Well, it is, but I feel like the director and the producers kind of bring forward, a lot of good production value. There's good costumes, there's good sets, there's a whole bunch of different locations, and, I can really appreciate that. The other thing about this movie that I liked was the overall score. It made this otherwise cheap and low-budget monster movie feel like a Hollywood affair. In my opinion, that raises it above slightly late-night movie trash. Now, with all that being said, guys, there's a lot wrong with this movie. Alexander Godunov is barely in this movie. I mean, he might have been in maybe 15 minutes worth of scenes, and that's a little disappointing for me because, in my opinion, he's one of the main reasons why I wanted to watch this movie. He's kind of a cool actor. So he's at the beginning, he's a little bit sprinkled throughout the middle, and then he's at the very end. So calling this movie a mixed bag is kind of an understatement because the biggest issue that's going on here is the overall pacing. As it is, it moves like molasses. It's really slow, really dry, really steeped in its, horror movie lore that it's trying to tell the audience something to do with Vikings and Thor and monsters and blah fucking blah. I didn't care because it was all, so dry. So ultimately, it, becomes rather hard for me to recommend. The Runestone is only for people like me, people that like to, dig into piles of VHS at the local flea market. Everyone else, steer fucking clear. This is a long, boring, dry horror movie with old school special effects and old school sentiments. So if those things turn you off, then definitely look elsewhere for your monster flick. Out of 10 stars, I don't think I could rate this movie terribly too high. I could only give it maybe 5.5 out of 10. And you know what, guys? That's being kind of nice.